Okay, so before watching this video, you should have already covered how macromolecules are made, how these polymers are made, and that reaction of dehydration. So you should already have that down. You should also have functional groups down and also organic down. Because all the macromolecules are organic, they all have functional groups. So the first macromolecule that I like talking about are the carbohydrates. So the polymer here, you can call it carbohydrate or you can call it polysaccharide. So as before, poly means many and saccharide means sugar. So you can think of saccharin like being very sweet. So sweet things, sugars. So saccharide, saccharin, sugar. Poly means many. Just like a polymer is many things, it's the same thing as a macromolecule. So this is the macromolecule of carbohydrates. And the monomer is called a monosaccharide. So what mono means, a monomer means one part. So this is one sugar. So naming, really easy, right? If there's a lot of sugars attached together, it's a polysaccharide. If there's one sugar, it's a monosaccharide. So what do these monosaccharides look like? So the name carbohydrate actually tells you the formula of these macromolecules. So it's got carbo, it's got carbon, and it's got hydrate. So when you hydrate, you drink water. Okay, so this is the general formula because the early scientists who discovered this saw that there was 1 part carbon for every 1 part hydrate, every 1 part water. But this is like a really large oversimplification because it's not always perfect like this. But for this class, I make it perfect like this, so don't you even worry about it. So this would be Cn. If you multiply out this n to all the parts in these parentheses, H to the 2n and O to the n, and all the carbohydrates follow this formula. Okay, so now let's give you an example following this CnH2nOn. Let's keep that back up. Okay, so these typically have between 4 to 6 carbons. Those are the ones you're going to see. So I'm going to draw you a 6 carbon one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons. And this particular sugar that I'm drawing is called glucose. This is really important in the cell, because this is one of the ways that the cell is able to get energy. It's by breaking down this molecule. So if you look at the formula here, you'll see it's C6H12O6. And this is the linear form. In solution, these carbohydrates, these monomers, take on a cyclic form. So it's called cyclic because it looks like a circle. So here's the linear, it looks like a line. And this is the same molecule drawn in cyclic form. So you see for every carbon, pretty much, there's an OH group. Till we get up here. Yeah, so this would be the OH for this one, and that's the OH for this carbon. And remember, each of these corners is a carbon with the appropriate number of H's on it. Each one of these circles is a carbon with the appropriate number of H's on it. So our carbohydrates can look like this. They can look like this. These are what our monosaccharides look like. Okay. So if we take our monosaccharide and we want to polymerize it, we can do that. We'll do it in the cyclic form so you can see, because this is how it exists in real life, so this is pretty much how it's going to look on the exam. And to polymerize, I would let you know which hydroxyl group it is. There we go. So, following this down, here is what the resulting polymer would look like. So we connected an O here with an O there. OH. And we fill in the rest of the OHs, because if it's not involved in the reaction, it doesn't change. And we're not worried about stereochemistry. So what this particular molecule would be a disaccharide. So di means two sugars. And so we can see these carbohydrates have these now special bonds. So this particular bond is called an ether bond, which you don't need to know. You just need to be able to recognize that, hey, here's one sugar, here's one cycle, here's another sugar, another cycle. So this is now technically a polymer. Its specific name is a disaccharide. So we're going to be working a lot with these structures and identifying it. So you can identify if this is a monosaccharide or a disaccharide in the cyclic form by seeing, okay, this is one sugar with one offshoot here. Here's another sugar with another offshoot here, and they're bound together by the COC bond. COC. Okay, so that's all well and good. And we can keep drawing that, and then as you draw more and more, you'd have, like over here, this could bind to another sugar, and that would be a trimer, and then this could bind to another sugar. And you could just count the number of cycles. And as there's more and more and more, then it becomes a polysaccharide. I've left off the OH groups, but I could add those back on as well. It doesn't matter. So each one of these would be an OH group. And we can just keep adding and adding and adding. Okay, so now let's talk about the individual functions. So the functions. Number one, energy. So when you eat a lot of sugar, you get super hyper. So this is typically for mono and disaccharides. Number two, structure. This is extremely important. So those polymers can be used for plant cell walls, so such as cellulose, which is a whole bunch of glucose molecules all bound together. And then the third is cell signaling. So typically that's done by the disaccharides. And these are put on the outside of the cell to let other cells know what's going on. Sugars are kind of how they talk. Sugars are so important to the cell. So these are the three functions of them that you should definitely know. So that'd be a great quiz question. Name two of the three functions of sugars, of carbohydrates.